Ready to go, Councilman.
Cool. So I'd like to call this meeting of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Advisory Board to order. This, as always, as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. If you would like to ask a question or give comment today, please use the raise your hand function. We also ask that you turn on your camera so that your name appears when you speak. Please feel free to cover your camera on your device if you do not want to appear actually on the screen itself. Also, just as a reminder regarding our reinvestment fund guidelines, if you have not returned your conflict of interest form, you're not permitted to participate in any motions or votes today. With that being said, let me do a roll call.
All right, Councilman, we're ready. Would you like me to do the roll call?
Yeah, sorry, Kirk. I'm working off my phone, so I can't see everything.
No worries. Thanks for joining, Rev. Grayson. Is a representative from District 6 present?
Here.
Is a representative from the Hill CDC present?
Present.
Is a representative from the Hill District Federal Credit Union present? Is a representative from the Hill District Consensus Group present?
Yes.
Thank you, Britt. Is a representative from Wesley Center AME Zion present?
Present.
Is a representative from Shenley Heights Community Development Program present? Is a representative from Ujamaa Collective present?
I'm here.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Sorry, Dr. Ellis. Is a representative from the Historic Hill Institute present?
Present.
Thank you. Is a representative from the Office of State Rep Ariane Abney present? Is there a representative from the Office of County Exec Sarah Enamorado present? Is there a representative from the Office of the Mayor present? Is there a representative from Pittsburgh Public Schools present? And is there a representative from Allegheny County Council present? Thank you, members, for being present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. I believe our next order of business is old business, and I believe Kirk is giving or Julia maybe will be giving an alert update.
Thank you, Councilman LaValle. We actually have Tom here with us today. And so, Tom, if you could walk us through a little bit of what was prepared for today's LRTA financial update.
Kirk, really quickly, the slides aren't changing on our end, just so you know. So just go to slideshow view so we can catch up on the slides.
And I would appreciate that as well, because I'd like to reference the slide.
Try the bottom right icon next, in the far right bottom. It may just be frozen for us.
Okay, I apologize. Just give me 1 second.
No problem. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
Tom,
see that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll read the slide as it is. I mean, this is the update from last meeting, update for, the month October 1st, October 31st. You can see the account balance being just north of 7.3 million. Certain interest has been earned in October, and then the year-to-date balance on that interest earned. As always, future revenue, the dollar per car, share parking revenues, which gets deposited into the fund balance, as well as in the future, $2 per ticket surcharge on the new Live Nation venue, which will also be deposited into the fund. The staff hours are provided here, which are the same, I believe, as they were presented the last advisory board meeting. But certainly for the advisory board, as well as anyone watching this, to make sure that folks are aware of this data.
I think this is the first time we have actually gotten the breakdown of staff hours, if my memory serves me correctly, but thank you for providing it.
I thought they were, but maybe it's because I've seen this more than once. But yeah, that's the breakdown per year. And if it's the first time folks are seeing it, then I apologize for thinking folks had seen this. But anyway, those are the breakdown by year.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I think
Yeah.
it's something the board can take a look at, and obviously we would be expecting a reduction over years because that year of 2023, you all were staffing it fully with a lot of communication back and forth. It was prior to Kirk being hired also, but I think this is really helpful. Thank you for providing it.
You're welcome.
And then Tom, I wanted to elevate before we got started, Kim Ellis had spoken to getting a more thorough breakdown of the expenses for the 21 projects that were completed through the Housing Stabilization Program, which began in, I think, 2023.
Mhm.
We do have a pretty firm understanding of how much money was spent, right? It's the 465 line item, but we were hoping to get more specificity in terms of what projects were completed and what was that dollar amount for each project. I'm not sure if we have that data available, but it is a request that has been made and it's been outstanding for a couple months now.
Okay, I appreciate that. Sitting here right now, I don't have a report out on that specific question, but I'll definitely bring that back, and I would think we can provide that, but let me make sure that I check with the appropriate folks here to I would think at a minimum, the number of projects and the dollars per project. I would think we can provide fairly easily. But let me take that, and I'll work with you, Kirk, to make sure that we provide what information we can and what we have.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Sure.
Any other pressing questions or comments or requests from the board?
I think I have a couple of questions relative to the payment from Live Nation. Can you talk to us a little bit about when we should expect that first payment from FSG and Live Nation, as well as trying to think if there are any other incoming payments. Oh yeah, and we have the payment that's still due from BPG, which is about $313,000. I know the URA has been working on getting them to fulfill that commitment. Can you just give us an update on both of those items?
Yeah, so in the Block E2 underpayment, you're correct. There's a roughly $313,000 outstanding invoice due from Block E2. Or wait,
Wait,
we're
no, that's on Block G1.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just-
I think that maybe this slide, now that I look at it, might be confusing, but I'm referring to Block G1, the owner payment that's due roughly $313,000. To your point, and you're correct, the URA invoiced for that payment. A payment has not been received. I know internally and working with our partners at the SCA, exploring what recourse there might be beyond invoicing for those dollars. I don't have a specific report out as to what that recourse might be, but it is something we're discussing and exploring to to do everything we can to ensure the payment of that owner payment.
Okay, and as a
And your
refresher,
second question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's okay, Tom. As a refresher to the committee, that $313,000 was the amount of closing costs for the Block G1 payment that ended up getting taken out of the amount that they paid into the original capitalization of the fund. So they essentially took the capital that would have otherwise come into the fund to pay closing costs, and the community from day one obviously has had concerns about the fact that, we were charged to pay those closing costs for the capitalization of the initial LRTA payment. So, and they had committed to paying that. So I just want to make sure everybody is apprised of the status of that and where that stands, because as you all know, that's a lot of money, $313,000. And then the next issue is, when will FSG and Live Nation make their first payment?
Yeah, so the LRTA payments for the Live Nation venue would start at the time of, I believe, when it's reassessed, right? So they'll develop the building, gets reassessed, has a reassessed value, which then triggers the LRTA payments. I'm ballparking here now, just thinking about their schedule. So I mean, it's under construction. They'll complete construction. and then get reassessed, and then that reassessment will trigger the alert of payments. If it's okay, can I get a better answer than that so I can provide a report out more specifically than that? But that would be over the time frame of the completion of the venue, and then the reassessment, which then of course triggers the real estate tax payments and then turn the alert of payment.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Sure. And then I'm not sure if you were asking me this, but I'll just say it anyway. The $2 per ticket obviously would happen at the time of ticketed events at the music venue, and there's a $2 surcharge would be with each ticket that's sold at the music venue, which then in turn would be deposited on I can get the exact answer on this too. I don't know if it's an annual deposit or quarterly, but whatever the regular deposit schedule would be as to the $2 per ticket surcharge at the music venue.
And the parking revenues, are those coming directly from the URA?
Yeah, we deposit that directly. And I think it's if it's the next slide, but we deposit those directly into the fund account.
Okay, is that on the next slide, Kirk?
So I'm trying to get to the next slide now, Marimba. I do believe this is the only slide that we have.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we do. I can get you that information, but we do deposit that it's not like every day, but like on a regular basis. As we collect the dollar per car, we make a deposit into the account, the Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund account balance.
All right, that's good. Thank you. We'll
Okay.
expect more detail at the next meeting. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And then,
Kimberly
Kim, I
has
saw-
her hand raised.
Oh,
Yeah, so I wanted to, I mean, I'm not going to represent BPG in this meeting officially, but just for the whole group to understand, there's a competing narrative in terms of what has happened with Alert of Money. So I just want everybody to be clear about that. And I think I would say, Tom, URA, Councilman Lavelle, to go back to BPG and inquire as to where the money is and like what's going on. So I just wanted to say that on record because it's really important for everybody to know that there is another narrative. That's all. Thanks.
We've actually spoken to BPG at the Executive Management Committee over the past 3 weeks. Kim, if that helps at all, to clarify, Councilman Lavelle was there as well as the authorities, both authorities who agree that $313,000 commitment was to be paid when they received their occupancy permit, and yet it still has not been paid. So they acknowledged that, that's the reality, but they have not made a commitment or disclosed when they might make that payment. So I don't know if that helps, but that's the latest that we have. Thank you.
Okay.
If there aren't any other comments, I will try to move us through the next few slides. Please let me know if this advances. So are we on new business at the moment?
Yeah, it advanced.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to just start us on a conversation related to the announcement of our application. And just to recap, once the board was able to approve the guidelines in September, the advisory board, and then formally introduce them to the URA board in September, we had a 30-day waiting period for the guidelines to be formally approved by the URA board, and that did happen in early October. Part of that vote was also to approve monies so that a JOT form license could be acquired by the project manager, myself, so that I could begin working on the applications. And so we had a target date of October 27th, which we were almost able to meet. I think it takes a lot to kind of go into the creation of the form, but also to get the form ready to be accessed. And so we were able to get that somewhere around October 29th. And again, what has been presented to the URA is that the application period will be open for roughly 6 months. And so currently that's through April 30th of 2026. A web page has been created. A general flyer has been finalized, which I'll share in a second. But I also collectively realized that across the board, there was a desire to ensure that the marketing materials had an emphasis on the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, and maybe de-emphasizing to a degree the recognition or the location of the URA logo to ensure that the community understands that this is a community generated fund. Kind of sitting in between these conversations, I think from the URA's perspective, there also is a desire just to make sure that folks are aware that the URA is the administrator of the fund. And so we've tried to walk through ways to respond to those requests in a manner that everyone is comfortable with. We have started to get applications because the application is essentially live. We know that a web page has been created, which I believe some of the advisory board members have made remarks that the way the Greater Hill District name is displayed prominently, and the URA logo is maybe takes a little bit in the background is kind of the direction we want to move in. But we still currently are at a point where we haven't had what is essential to really getting the community aware of the Alerter Fund and the opening of these guidelines, and that's having a unified and coordinated release from the advisory board, which is only appropriate. And so the URA does have its monthly meeting coming up this Thursday. Again, because these things have already been voted on and approved, there will be, an announcement at this meeting on Thursday. But I continue want to figure out how, in this role, I can be best supportive in getting a joint message out from the advisory board. I know there was a draft press release that went out, and there was some feedback there that I can take and turn around and get to you all. But also just wanted to create this space so we can kind of talk through, how we move collectively forward. This is just an example of the general flyer which has been created, which has a mention of the programs, the amounts, and then also a QR code. So this will be a two-sided flyer, right? And I think here, again, we see the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund prominently displayed per the recommendations of the advisory board. We do acknowledge the URA as an administrator, but ideally this would be something that community members would see and would be more in line with some of the comments from this board. And then we also have worked to have a better landing page for the application. So once people click on, I think if you guys recall, at first the URA logo was really prominently displayed. We've worked through several conversations to get to a place where hopefully this does capture the desire to really emphasize the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, but also have an acknowledgement of the URA's role as administrator. In addition to this revision, which we just recently worked on, we are going to link out to the advisory board when you start to get into the application and it mentions the Greater Hill District Advisory Board. We are going to have a link so that applicants will be able to directly see who those members are. But I think it's just important that we kind of figure out how the advisory board really wants to get this out to the community, because that will really signal and be a delineating moment in us clearly opening up these opportunities. And so I wanted to pause here. Kim, I see you're the first hand that I can see that's raised. So Kim, if you want to jump in so we can continue this discussion.
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to say, as I put in the email chain, you all, I did drop the ball on following up with Brandon Jennings, who is doing our logo. And what everybody had expressed is that they wanted him to create a singular logo out of all of the organizational logos. So I need everybody to send in their logos. I did request this before, but I just think we were all very busy. So now that it's like top of mind, thank you, Lakeisha, for sending in your logo. Can everybody please send me a good graphic of your logo so I can send them all to Brandon, and then he can construct the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund logo. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
I'll put my email in the chat, just, again, not that you don't have it, but,
Thank you.
I just have one kind of requested revision on the prior slide, and that is to, if you could go back, well, wherever it says programs administered on behalf of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, I think what we're looking for is advisory board, because technically they're operating on behalf of the advisory board, so to speak. So I
Okay.
think that's what I'm looking for. Also on the main application page underneath, where it says programs administered by the Urban Redevelopment Authority, it should say on behalf of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Advisory Board. Because otherwise people will maybe not, understand what's going on. And the reason why, just for everybody, to understand kind of where I landed on this, it's really important for me that the community understand that these funds were procured by the community through community work, not because of the URA, and not that those funds came from the URA. The URA certainly makes investments into the Hill District, and I think that they should be appropriately acknowledged when that happens. But I think that it is too infrequently the case that our community actually understands that our advocacy matters, that the work that we do matters, and that we can actually generate outcomes for ourselves. There's a great sense of empowerment and pride when we can show that for ourselves. And I just don't want people to get confused about the source of those funds. I also feel quite passionately about not erasing people's labor. And I think that we all know that the Hill CDC's work in filing a lawsuit is what generated the LRTA funds. But because I know that has been a point of contention and recognizing that labor, amongst some parties in the community, I, am not going to fight for that. But I just want to say, as a general principle, I believe that it's important to recognize people's labor and the accomplishments that they have made. And that's not specific to Hill CDC or Merimbun Alliance. That is specific to community labor in particular. And so I just wanted to let you all know where I stand on that, and why I was so passionate about making sure that when people come in to apply for funding, that they can have a sense of pride that labor was done on their behalf to deliver resources for our benefit. Thank you.
I agree with Marimba to a certain extent. When you look at this page where it says programs administered by, and then it has the URA and nothing else, it appears a layperson reading that would think that the funding is coming from the URA, out of the URA's coffers. I think that the program administered by should be in relatively smaller print, and the growth funds logo or acronym or whatever it might be would be right up under the reinvestment fund initiatives. Yeah, because it does appear that it looks like the URA is supplying or providing the funding for the initiative.
So thank you for your comment, Richard. And I think, so I'm hearing consistency between what you just stated and Marimba stated and others, about properly using the correct language there. I do just want to make a point that as the collective works to develop a logo, that's still going to take time. And so all the pieces, like having a logo specific to the reinvestment fund, aren't going to be in place tomorrow, right? And so I just think that I want to kind of try to strike a balance between how do we get the materials, and it sounds like we're getting really close to a place of comfortability, but also recognizing that we haven't had a collective announcement from the advisory board. So wondering how do we marry those two? It sounds like there's some immediate revisions that we can make, but how do we also make sure that we get this information out soon?
Well, I think the first thing we can do is the URA, when they make their announcement at the board meeting tomorrow, they should acknowledge what their real role is in this program, that they should explicitly state that these funds are not from the URA, that the Urban Redevelopment Authority is working on behalf of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Advisory Board to make sure the funds get granted into the community. I think that is very important, and I think that they should do that in the spirit of transparency. I think that it is very simple to add on behalf of to this page. And I mean, if we don't have to have a logo made for our logos to be there, right? Like, I mean, we could just line our logos up across the bottom of the page there in a very small format, and that could serve as the point, as the visual cue. In the meantime, I personally just want to make sure that that people know that their work is on behalf of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Advisory Board. That's what's important to me. I'm willing to move forward with that revision. And I think that it's really important that the notice goes out, especially since, there is a live link behind, that there's a live link, but right now there's no public announcement to let people know that. So I agree that efficiency is important, as is transparency.
Thank you, Miranda. Tom, I just wanted to elevate and give you space to maybe reply to some of those requests, and the feasibility with moving forward with said request.
Yeah, no, I heard them and I appreciate the requests. I mean, in terms of the board meeting tomorrow, I mean, Councilman Lavelle, we're here together and we'll certainly both be at the board meeting tomorrow. On the face of it, I don't see why that would be inappropriate to make sure that the full context of the fund is announced at the board. But I'll maybe Councilman Lavelle, if you have thoughts on that, but I can certainly bring that back, as we make the announcement tomorrow. And then as to the logo and these types of things, I'm not a communications person, but on the face of it, if that's a request, and once a logo is created to ensure that it's incorporated into the materials, again, I'm not the one who has actually changed the jot form, but it strikes me as something we can certainly look at. And if it's not possible, again, I'd work with Kirk and report that back. But on the face of it, seems like once there's a logo, adding it where appropriate, as appropriate, seems possible to me.
Thank you, Tom. Councilman Lavelle, is there any thing you would want to add?
And I've raised my hand again, Kirk.
Sorry.
No, I agree with what's been communicated on both sides.
Kim?
Yes. So I am in communications. So two things. One, I want on the website underneath the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, that's where the logos can go on top. But I think it's also very important to put in parentheses GHDNRF, because we keep sending that out and it doesn't actually spell out a word. So everybody should know, they should associate those letters with the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund on the site. And then in terms of the actual meeting, especially because it's the URA and the URA represents the city of Pittsburgh, I think that it's extremely important that in the commentary that they publicly acknowledge that the LRTA law was introduced by our own Councilman Daniel Lavelle. That's extremely important. So those two things, and on top of what everybody else said. Thank you.
Agreed. I agree that that's a part of not erasing labor and history as well, which was prompted by the Hill CDC's lawsuit. I think those two things are really critically important.
Thank you, Marimba. And Alicia, it looked like you may have been trying to chime in. And if not, forgive me.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So it sounds like we have changes that are doable in relation to language, recognition of labor verbally at the announcement, but also the inclusion of logos on materials. And so I'll work, to make sure that that information is in. I think some of these changes could be done fairly quickly. And then if we need to, accrue logos or what have you, I'll be working with all you guys to make sure we get that in. But again, I just want to stress that we're at a good phase here, and I think the next piece we're trying to get through is how do we as a community publicly get this out so that people are all aware. So thank you for your input, and we'll make sure we move forward on those suggestions. Is there anything else related to the release of applications that anyone would want to bring up? Okay. So I want to move us through. Again, we do have an executive session today, and I know some people have a hard stop today, but without rushing, I just wanted to give you guys some revised dates. The dates that I had presented last meeting, I think there was some concern that maybe they were rushed. And so sometimes, when we have a delay, it actually works to our advantage. And so as we're working to have a formal community-based announcement of the application, I have proactively went ahead and rescheduled some engagement opportunities. Again, these aren't in totality, but these are the dates that we currently have. There is an opportunity to put these dates and times on a flyer that the comms team from the URA could work on. And I'm fairly confident that could get done over the next few days. But looking back on one of our email exchanges as a group, I think there also may be an opportunity to just have those dates and times and to be able to communicate those out to your respective networks in the way that you're most used to, whether that's on your news blast or emails, et cetera. So we'll try to work on both approaches and figure out what's best. But I have booked a Saturday at the library on the 22nd. And that day is tight in terms of the library scheduling, so I got an hour that day. But we would come back, not the following Saturday, but the next available Saturday after Thanksgiving. And again, that would be a Saturday session for a couple hours to be able to have an information session. And then I went ahead and on my calendar have looked at where we may be able to have virtual information sessions where people could join, learn how to apply, learn what the guideline specifics are, and have those at various times so that we could meet as many folks as possible. All of this is concurrently needed. I also think, again, having a public announcement from the board, we are going to get a lot of people aware. I think some of these may turn into more technical assistance moments, but these are what I've now put on the calendar as a revision, just based off our new timeline. So just any quick thoughts here, questions, comments, or concerns?
I want to make sure that the one thing we should be mindful of is in the event that the link has been obtained, I want to assure people that the sequence in which we receive applications will not start until it has been publicly announced, right? So if someone it has submitted their application, but someone just hears the announcement tomorrow or in the coming week, they don't have to worry that, you know, they didn't get it in that first day or something like that when someone may have received the link. So I just want to assuage any concerns that anyone might have about that. That is not the approach that the committee is taking relative to assessing and scoring. So the committee will be determining when that formal kind of time period will be, but I just want to make sure everyone is comfortable in knowing that if they somehow, you know, didn't submit it 2 weeks ago, that is going to impact the decision making. It won't. Although we will, obviously, if you wait until April, right, that's probably going to be a different decision. So I think the committee still has some work to do around that starting point of decision making, but the public should not be concerned about that at this point. Okay, thank you.
Wait, I'm slightly confused. Do we just remind me, you all, because we made a lot of decisions. Do we have like an order of recency in terms of the turning in of people's applications?
So let me try to respond to that, Kim, and see if it answers your question. So we have agreed that we will accept applications on a rolling basis. Technically, the application has gone live, but per our current discussion, there hasn't been that public announcement. Some people have received that application, but again, I think what Marimba is clearly laying out is that there won't be, any prioritization based off of when those have come in. What we have to put in place and what we're going to spend our executive session doing today is first we need our selection panel decided. Once we have the structure, once we have the people, what has been discussed to date is setting a regular interval of when the applications we have received will be scored and graded, and people will know whether or not they will be recommended to you all as an advisory board, et cetera. Some applications clearly are going to have a timeline that is more immediate, especially if we're talking about development, but I could also see that related to maybe a program that a organization wants to run. And so I think we have to have an ability to have a regular interval, whether that is every month or every 6 weeks, by which the applications we have received to that point can be graded. But right now that has been a discussion. So we're not waiting until April to get all applications. Once we have the selection panel in place, we then have to set the intervals by which applications will be scored and recommendations, excuse me, will be made to this advisory board.
Okay, I mean, I got that. I just, we voted to release the link. So I just want to make sure that nobody is being penalized because they received the link. And I don't even know, well, you said that, I guess there's applications rolling in. So that's all. It's just,
Yeah, no one will be penalized because they've received the link. And I think that
Okay.
was this larger point.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So there's work to be done on getting some language revisions to the landing pages, webpage, et cetera, related to the materials for the application. There's some work to do to collect some logos and get those up as well. We're going to continue to work as a board. I'll be listening to you all in terms of when that formal announcement feels right from the advisory board. And I think those were the main points of discussion today before we move into executive session. Recognizing the time, I still wanted to leave open. Are there any other key points or questions that anyone would like to raise before we adjourn the meeting? Okay, if there are no other questions, then we will stop recording and adjourn this meeting and move into our executive session.
I leave, right?
Yes, Tom.
Okay. Everyone
you.
be well. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, I want to stop sharing and I want to stop recording.
I wasn't here for the roll call, so I just want to make sure the record shows that I was in attendance.
Thank you, Richard.
This,
All right, so
please, Kirk.
yes, Alicia, thank you for also being present. So I think we have all of our voting members here, as well as our co-chairs. Hopefully this works.
Kirk, I think the recording needs to be disabled.
Okay,